Welcome back to another episode of Just
Just a
a
squirrel
Squirrel Looking
looking
for a Nut,
for a nut,
trying to
trying to get out
out of this
this rut.
rut. Not bad. Not bad.
Not bad with the cross-Atlantic delay.
I'm glad that we're able to do this, and for anyone that's tuning in right now, I was mentioning to you, Casey, how my bandwidth is not the best doing this from hostels, but I think that's just one of the beauties of it, is just being able to figure it out on the fly and make the best out of the circumstances. um, this topic, so when Scott was doing the write-up, I did not think he was going to take it in this direction to begin with, but he did. That's kind of the beauty of working with Scott Mason along the side. But I've really been curious about it because when I first started this travel, the physical travel of going to Portugal and now in Spain, one of my friends gave me what I found to be a really good piece of advice, and that she said, be careful who you travel with, primarily because there are people who are going to give you energy and there are people who are going to drain energy from you. And I initially took that as something to consider when I'm physically traveling. And then what I started to realize is that it was a huge metaphor for life to begin with. And that's be careful who you travel with along the whole journey. So whether it's a significant other, whether it's the friend groups that I'm surrounded with, mentors and whoever else. And that's where I started to realize even more the importance of the environment, because and I know you understand this in a similar way as well as anyone else that might be tuning in right now. And I started to realize that at the end of the day, the people that I let into my circle, I do become a part of them. Now, I may not become full versions of themselves, but I become elements of it. And so that's where I really got curious. And I was also asking you questions before you and I started about significant others, and when do you know to kind of uh, seize the opportunity, so to speak, and when do you know
Right.
to play it out, and how do you know if those are the people that you actually want to travel with, and what's really important and part of that journey. So I know it's a lot to unpack, and then I figured that maybe the best way, in one of the interesting ways that I find within this topic that we can even start with, is this concept of a significant other, and solely because I think it's something that um, many of us, I think, experience in one way or another, and it's probably the longer forms of relationships that I've
Yeah.
experienced throughout my life, and a more serious one, which I don't know, in some aspects. Um, Looking back at my relationships and the ones that I've been in thus far, I think each one had its own, not agenda, but checklist of things that I was looking for, and it was drastically different from the previous ones or the next ones. But I'm curious from your lens, because you've been married for how many years?
Since '04. So what is that?
Oh wow.
17 years. 17 years
Okay.
end of this month.
Wow.
Wow.
So how did you figure that out, that this is the person you wanted to share your journey with?
She was hot. I so I, you don't figure it out. You figure it
Mm,
out through the adventure.
mhm,
And you have a feeling. And just like anything in life, people go in and out of your life. You hope that if you're going to marry someone and go through the ceremony and do all of the social rigmarole, that not rigmarole, but if you go through those steps that
mhm,
society requires, then or wants you to go through, you hope that you don't have to do it again. But if you get married and it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Now, if kids are involved, that obviously adds another layer and other people, and there's issues there. Don't get me wrong. Um, but I say all of this because I don't want people to think there's pressure that at 26 or 28 you have to have it figured out. You don't.
mhm,
You've got some, and there's an energy and there's a vibe, and you've got
mhm,
things in common, But just like, I don't know if I'm definitely dating myself, but with Dustin Hoffman, the Graduate, where he's on. I won't give away the ending, but there's that point at the end where everything's kind of a Hollywood ending with marriage. A marriage really begins once the ceremony and in the Hollywood movie is done. You get the
Mm-hmm.
girl, you get the guy. Well, now what? And that's the fun part. That's the difficult part. But that's where the work and where the trench is, and that's really where the relationship begins. And my wife and I have 2 children. She's beautiful. We have disagreed about so much. We've had arguments. Both of us at times have wanted to be right and not happy, but we've
Mm-hmm.
really grown and we've gotten through it. And if you can't do that, then move on, and that's okay. But if you really can put in that work, you realize that a relationship is just like anything else. You build it. It's like a business. It's a labor of love. But you don't have it figured out. You kind of figure it out as you go along with this person.
Were there any points throughout the journey where you did not want to continue this adventure with her?
No, I think I always wanted to. You definitely have moments where you think about what it'd be like if we didn't. You definitely
Mm-hmm.
have angry moments. What the hell am I doing? How did I get here?
Mm-hmm.
Kids add a definite layer of that, and my children have added tons of layers. They're fantastic children, but we've definitely had some difficult moments throughout. Um, but yeah, I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, how the hell did I get here? And who is this woman? And why did she say that? And she doesn't appreciate me. And you realize I'm just projecting meaning onto all of these things
Mm-hmm.
because I'm saying she doesn't appreciate me when really it's not that. She just did something.
Mm-hmm.
And so you definitely have those moments. I think that one of the best ways to get through and to really create that is to you rather be happy, not right. And that doesn't mean you get walked on or let someone walk all over you or take advantage of you. But you just really, it's very easy, even in a great relationship like we have, for me to project a meaning onto something and be
Mm-hmm.
totally incorrect
Mm.
and be totally wrong. And, that can lead to a rabbit hole of disagreements. So,
The reason why I asked that is because I've been really curious about this topic, especially on this Camino hike, which is, it's a it's a hike of a lifetime. That's the best way that I could phrase it
yeah.
based on based on what I've been through to this point. But one of the things that I've tried to explore is a similar concept, and that's what am I looking for in a partner that's compatible? And not necessarily trying to identify a checklist of things, because I think that's a in my opinion, I think it's a slippery slope to go on, because is anyone ever going to meet the checklist check for check? Probably not. There's going to be some checks that are going to be left out, and there's going to be additional areas that they bring to the table that I didn't even think of. But
Yeah.
I have found it interesting that as I was reflecting upon my journey and trying to understand who is the person that, who are the things that are non-negotiable, so to speak, or what are the things that are non-negotiable, and then what are the things that can be left up into interpretation, or areas that I can grow in. And Casey's Wi-Fi looks like it just died. But one of the areas that I found myself looking at is this concept of compassion. Also understanding that someone who is there, you are. See,
Hey,
it's your Wi-Fi. It's not mine.
something dropped. I don't know what happened. Oh my God. Good.
But no. But so I was sharing how one of the things that I've been looking for in someone who's compassionate, who's driven, but also understanding that there are other elements that they may bring to a relationship that I'm more than happy to grow in. And so that's where I think that for me, the process really begins in understanding, like, okay, here are the things that I'm looking forward to that align with my core values. But at the same time, I also have to understand that even the core values may evolve into other things that I haven't explored just yet. So that's why I'm curious to hear from, people like you, people like Jessica, who's joined us, who have been married for many years now. And so you guys have had
Yeah.
a different journey when it comes to that, and just different level of understanding, like what you might have been looking for, in your case, 17 years ago, might be different if things were to change now, and you have to restart the process, which I hope you don't by any means, but you don't know what you don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, being with someone, it, there's this artificial formality about it when you get
Hmm.
married, and divorce is so taboo. And I don't want
Hmm.
to get divorced. I view it as taboo, but I'm
Hmm.
aware of the fact that I view it as taboo. I'm aware of being aware. But I'm sort of programmed by that. And um, other people, divorce is just what you do, and that's just part of it. And
Hmm.
if it doesn't work out, we'll get divorced. I think with a marriage, it's like the most important decision that you really need to think about. And then once you make the decision, all logic flies out, and you kind of run with your emotion, and you just kind of follow the energy, right?
Hmm.
In some ways, as it should be. And it's very difficult to prepare, but you really want to feel the energy of the other person. And I wouldn't get married on the first day after meeting someone. I think a good year or two. You feel that vibe, you're able to work out some of the kinks, whether you're 40% there or 50% or 60%.
Hmm.
But you're going to change as a person, they're going to change as a person, and you, like you mentioned, that checklist, they're going to have certain things that you like. They go hiking, they like to go to cocktail parties, they love movies, they hate sports, whatever it is. But then that changes.
Hmm.
When you have children, my wife has gotten into a lot of health areas and supplements, and she doesn't want to eat fast food anymore, and she wants to cook in a different way. Okay, we were gluten free for a long time. Okay, that's kind of a pain, and you didn't even know how to spell gluten free when we got married, but that's fine. And me, I don't watch TV anymore. Movies bore me. Like, I'm just a boring guy. She always yells at me that I don't watch shows with her anymore, and I'd rather be writing, or I'd rather run the dog at night, than watch
Hmm.
one of her shows. I can't believe I'm saying that on live TV here. And so, that doesn't go over that well with her, right? Where did that happen? We used to watch shows all the time together. Now you want to go run the dog at night. So
Hmm.
it just changes on both ends. And there are moments where you lose the spark, you lose the laugh. You haven't laughed in a while, you haven't made love in a while, you haven't gone out in a while, you get
Hmm.
tired, the kids are tiring you, you get bored, you get angry, you fall into a rut where it's easier to make fun of them than it is to, Al Bundy, Married with Children, you can go down that route.
Hmm.
Um, so and there's probably a good chance you'll run into all that.
Hmm.
It's just really that core element of would you rather be happy and not right, and having that sense of respect for the other person, and working through it, saying sorry, the appreciation that you talk a lot about.
Do you think you can figure out almost everything in a relationship? And the only reason why I ask that is because I'm thinking about the relationship my parents have. They've been married for, oh boy, I don't know, 30 plus years, a while, really long time. And what it makes me think of is, first, I remember when I was thinking about their relationship, and thinking to myself, is it really possible for them to have been together for that long and not experience moments where one just didn't want to say, like, hey, screw this, like, I'm going a different path, I'm going a different route? Based on your experience and how long you've been in this one, do you think that there is a problem that you can encounter that's truly not something that you're able to figure out between the two of you? Or can communication truly solve any problem that's thrown at you, that you know of? There might be some that you haven't experienced just yet.
So so is the question, can we overcome all
Yeah.
challenges?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can. And I feel like we must do it. We want to do it. And I think we
Hmm.
feel we must overcome it, and we'll find a way. And my wife had breast cancer. 2018 and 2019 were extremely difficult for us. She made a comment a few days ago that when she was healing, I didn't do exactly what she wanted. I didn't take care of her in the same way. And I'm like, that was 3 years ago, and you're still giving me a hard time for it, right? So 2 years ago. So, uh, our kids have had anxiety. They didn't fit. We've tried a number of schools. There's a lot of failures that we've had, a lot of things that we've had to overcome. I think my wife Lillian and I can pretty much overcome anything that
Hmm.
we and I think that's because we've overcome stuff in the past that we can overcome stuff in the future.
Hmm. How does all of this shift for your friends? So what I mean by that is when I compared, um, not compared, but when I had been in some of the relationships that I was in, and then I was looking for friends to be surrounded by. I've noticed that within the friend groups, some come and go, and it happens at very different stages of life. And I don't claim to understand why some chose to stick around and others didn't, and why one of the friends that I've been friends with for going on to 17 years, and then some of the other friends that I've been friends with a week.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, kind of from your lens, like, do you find yourself that you carry certain things from the relationship that you have with your wife into your friendships? So, are there things like trust, or the ability to speak your truth when it comes, or encourage each other regardless of the circumstances, that you carry over from this relationship into the friendships that you have right now, or that you have had to this point?
So I have a good group of buddies, of guy buddies. Some I've known since kindergarten, high school,
Hmm.
college. A good 10, 12, 15 guys, and we're all still friends. I saw almost all of them at a weekend a few weeks ago, and we all laugh at the same jokes, and we all sort of have a core memories. At the same time, many of us have really developed in different ways. And there are definitely things that you and I talk about here that
Hmm.
I probably could talk with two, maybe three out of 15.
Hmm.
Not to knock the other ones, but they don't vibe with it. They're not on that plane. They want to talk about something else. It's too woo woo. They're just not there. And that's okay. I just don't. You talk about other things. Some folks, some of my good friends, I have more to talk with than others. Some guys you just sit in silence with, and
Mm.
it's garbage time, but garbage time in a good way. You're just next to them. You're bonding in the way that, like you mentioned, the hike that you were on. You kind of do it in
Mhm,
your own way. These friendships sort of happen in their own way. If there are
mhm,
people who really don't talk that much, who I'm very close with, and most of the time we spend together, we don't talk that much.
mhm,
So, and that's okay. So I think with friends, and that's my core old group of friends. There's other groups of friends that I have, and I have a feeling that as you meet new friends, you're meeting them not as a 7-year old, you're meeting them as a 27-year old, a 37-year old, a
mm,
47-year-old. And so you're, if I met a frat boy guy right now,
mhm,
I could relate to him and joke and talk about SEC football. I don't know how long that will last. And if it does, I think he and I, or she and I, would probably have a moment where we realize there's something deeper than SEC football, right?
mhm,
And if
mhm.
there isn't something, no knock on SEC football, which I like to follow. My Pac-10 football, my Bears are just anyway. I won't get into college football,
Yeah.
but you um, you're older. You're the same
Yeah.
person, but you're older, and you sort of are looking for different things in relationships. I mean, I think of the group that we have, Scott and Nicole and Bodie and all the folks that you've introduced me to in this sort of circle of people. And
Mhm.
they're the right people for me to meet at this time in my life.
Did that ever bother you, that people, either people weren't changing at the speed that you wanted them to, or people were just changing in completely different directions from you?
It did, and you have a bit of a holier than thou. Why aren't they more aware like I am? Why don't they listen to
Yeah,
jazz?
'cause I've
But
experienced the same thing.
yeah, but you have to let that go because people are just going to have the hike how they have their hike and what's going
Mhm,
to be important for them. And it just takes too much energy to want to say, like, God, I wish that guy was deeper, was as deep as I am. Because when you're doing that, that's a spiritual ego, and you're as bad as the next person just judging someone
Mm-hmm.
else. So I needed to let go. I also needed to realize that there just were certain people that, like you mentioned before, I wasn't going to travel as much with. There have
Mm-hmm.
been some people that have been very close to me that I just haven't followed up on phone calls. We are markedly more distant than we used to be,
Mm-hmm.
and we both realize it, and it's just where we're at now, and we're on different paths. It hurts. It hurts.
Yeah.
You know this person as someone that you spent a lot of time with at a certain phase in your life, and now you kind of don't care as much.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just not vibing with them.
For me, it felt like a loss at certain points. Some of the people that I felt that I went different paths with for a variety of reasons. And one of my friends that I think of right now, we live on, or we used to live on, literally polar opposite sides of the country. And so, what used to be moments where him and I would get together and find common things to do, to go play basketball, watch games, and all these other stuff, we weren't able to do anymore. And I realized that because of the fact that our common activity shifted and they were no
Yeah,
longer the same. So then the common activity literally became a phone call. That's the only
yeah,
thing that we could do in order to stay in touch. That our conversations were no longer the same. The topics we discussed were no longer the same. And I remember initially, before I learned some elements of this concept of letting go, I mean, it bothered me a lot. I used to think, why is he not thinking the same way? In fact, I remember in those conversations, I would be suggesting to him the things that I'm reading, the people that I'm talking to, the things that I'm doing, just so he can get on the same wavelength as I am.
yeah,
And then I started to realize that I was just enforcing change upon him in situations where he may not have wanted that change.
yeah.
He may not have wanted to read that book. He may not have wanted to go to X, Y, and Z club to develop professionally or personally or whatever it is. So that was definitely a part of my journey that I've experienced and very happy to have learned from. And that's wanting so desperately to fix other people and change them in my own way that after a while I just realized it's like it really is an impossible journey to go on. Because unless the person wants to change themselves, unfortunately there's not much I can do. I can be there to support their journey. I can be there to support their change in whatever way that they envision the change to be, but I can't physically do the work and I can't physically impose a dream that they don't dream of themselves.
Well, that's the main point. As they say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so, who are you? Who am I
Hmm.
to tell someone how to
To
live
tell
a
them
certain
that that's the
life?
way. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, that's what colonialism was all about. Who was it for white Americans and Brits to enforce certain isms and certain ways of thinking to other parts of the world? Who are we to do that? We think it's great,
Hmm.
and we abhor how other countries treat certain people, but who are we to do it?
Hmm.
And not only that, but we've done it in ways that only perpetuated many more violence and hatred. So obviously, it hasn't worked that well. So who are we? And so the other thing it may be is that your friend may have it all figured out,
Yeah.
and you're the one who doesn't have it
Yeah.
figured out.
Yeah.
And good for you for figuring out on your end, but that dude, I mean, this may be his last lifetime. He may be in alignment with whatever God energy or whatever it is, and
Hmm.
he's heading back to the source. If I don't know if you saw that movie Soul from Disney, but
Yeah.
he may be on that escalator to that big white light in the sky and going to connect with the creator, and there's nothing more for him to do. Maybe all he needs to
Yeah.
do is to watch NASCAR, and that's what it is. I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, but who are we to say? I think for me, my wife always says I have sort of a laissez-faire way of it, and I'll even say to my kids, well, if that's what you want to do, if you really want to spend your $20 there on that, go ahead. I don't make that face, but there are moments where like people need to learn sort of from their own experience.
Hmm.
And some of it's laissez-faire, but also it's okay if that's what you want to do. Now with kids, you don't want them to waste their money, and I'm here to help guide them. So sometimes a little bit different. And if your friend was smoking cigarettes or doing heroin or doing something that's I was going to say objectively negative. How do we know how do we know heroin is objectively negative? But
Yeah.
we've deemed it so. So if we're going to buy into that contract, uh, doing a lot of heroin is not a good thing. So you could intervene, but ultimately, like who are we to say?
Yeah. Well, that's the big thing that I realized is, and I know that in realizing this, it really helped transform a lot of the friendships that I've had. And that's they're no longer giving advice and guidance on, hey, you need to do it this way, or you need to give up drinking, or you need to save more, or you need to buy a house, and all these other things. And instead, I just started to listen more and trying to
Yeah,
understand, okay, what is their world? How are they building it? And what role am I playing in it?
right,
Because I know that I know the feeling of what it was like to be on the other end of that and
right.
be the one that's hearing the constant advice. Hey, why are you not doing this? Why are you
Yeah.
not doing that? And I just I did not want to be that person for someone else. And the other thing that I find interesting that you mentioned, that I have experienced in the recent, I don't know, year, maybe 2 years, is repeating, or what appears to be repeating the same pattern. And that's having a harder time of letting go
Hmm.
of some of the people that I've developed close bonds with. And in realizing that both of us are going different directions, I've struggled. I've found it very challenging to let go of some of these relationships, and one of the reasons why is because for a significant amount of time I felt that I would not be able to not necessarily meet this person, but recreate this bond ever again
Hmm. Hmm.
and recreate this connection. And so I ended up traveling with that person for however long until it kind of naturally phased out and
Yeah.
became its own thing. And I think with some distance, physical and mental, it kind of played itself out. It developed its own form of relationship. But I know for me, that was also something that I found to be challenging within my own journey, like really letting go of some of these closer relationships and letting them be whatever they're meant to be. Um, whether they
You
met my expectations or not, it's a different story. And I think that's the other thing is like having a set of expectations in a friendship. It has created new ones, and it has also destroyed some of the old ones that I've had just because I
and
was
again, you don't
expecting
want to
people to
project
do a
meaning.
certain way.
You're
Yeah,
not sure what's going on with them, with those
exactly.
people. They
Yeah.
might have met someone else. They might have just been broken up with. They may, who knows what's going on in their life that they haven't told you, and you can project meaning on someone. And I have. I mean, I've had friends, very good friends, who've left my life or become distant, even with my core group, and it's fantastic that we've remained so close over the years. There are certain people within that group or that I'm not as close with as I once
Hmm.
was, and I have my family, they have their family, and that's just what you do. And some people I've talked with about it, and others I haven't. But as you get into your late 20s, as you get into the 30s, as you start pairing up, as you create new relationships, and that's
Hmm.
the beauty. The beauty of it all is that it's not mutually exclusive. When you move away from friends and create new relationships, you can bring it back. It's not
Mm.
at the same. You can get sad because you're not talking with them as much. You're not playing hoops as much. Um, it can be a little bit stilted sometimes, but usually there's something there's something there.
Hmm.
So
Speaking of basketball, have you played basketball recently?
I did. I played last Sunday in the neighborhood. It was fantastic.
Yeah. Did you miss that?
Yeah.
Did you miss that group?
I missed them a lot. We had a really good time. It's a group of 25 to 55-year-olds. They've been playing in the neighborhood for 30 years, and I've been playing for about 10 years now. And
Mm.
it's a great, competitive, but a ton of fun every Sunday morning. And yeah, I missed them. There's some really good people that I see once a week, even sometimes once a month if I don't make a few
Hmm.
weekends. And you're all, and there were some new guys there, and you're just all I just met this guy and I'm dishing him assists, and he and I are slapping five and hugging each other, right? So it's go figure what can bring you together. But those are new friends in my life, and then you leave and you see him next weekend. So
I miss being able to do that because I was doing that in Austin
yeah,
for 4 to 5 years,
So much
and
fun.
I've gotten a chance to know a lot of the people there, and I don't know. It's just it's something for me. It's fascinating because the same exact reasons that you mentioned. A lot of the people that I've played with literally the entire time, and some have played there for 10 or 15 years prior, and then there
Yeah,
are some new additions that came in throughout the years, and I've just been blown away by the fact how here's a group of people who at certain times I would see 3 times a week, at other times I
yeah,
would see once a week, and then other
yeah,
times I would see 0 times over a course of a month because I'm
yeah,
busy, they're busy, whatever reasons, and then yet we're still able to come together, and
yeah.
it's as if nothing has changed. We
Nothing.
still remember the same exact person, the same exact way to pass them the ball, and we know exactly where they shoot from. And I remember thinking about it and just thinking about the conversation today. I'm like, how does that happen? How do I remember where this kid Patrick cuts and where he shoots from? And
That's
yet
right.
I haven't played with him in like a month or like
That's
half a
right.
year. And
You
then,
just pick it up.
some of the people have families, and then they
Yeah,
would start the families, and then they would come back like a year later,
yeah,
5 years later, and you still
yeah.
remember them vividly. Like, okay, here's how I played with them. Here's how I interacted with them.
That's it.
It's mind blowing to me, like how it
Yeah.
works, and I don't know how it
It,
works, but it does.
it does. And, I'll come up, hey, man, what's up? Like, you don't hug, you don't even shake hands. Like, sometimes you just come on, put your shoes on,
Yeah.
and go on the court. And you don't even say, hey, what's up? How you doing? Let's go. And you just, maybe it's guys trying to be cool, but you just jump on and you just start playing. And, you know exactly where they like the ball, and the new guys come in, and you pick it up quickly. It's great.
Did you ever? So this is something that I try to do, not try to do, but was able to do in situations like that, whether it's activity like basketball or whatever else. How do you know personally when to take the friendship or that connection a step beyond that? How do you know that, okay, this is a person that I would want to share a beer with? This is a person that I don't mind introducing to my family. Like, I know you're big on energy, but is there something else that you look at when you take that next step with each one of the connections that you have?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't, with the folks in basketball, I leave it at basketball, and they
Oh,
kind
okay.
of leave it at basketball.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're all in the neighborhood, some family guys. There's a few younger single guys. Um, there's a few other lawyers who I could talk law about, but I'm not really. I haven't. I think I just like it as it's basketball. I see them in the neighborhood. I'll see them at the park on weekdays, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
BS and we'll talk. So I definitely bump into them and gotten to know them, but I haven't taken it. You just I don't know. You feel it. There were probably some times where I could. I just
Mm-hmm.
thought I don't have the energy for it. I don't really have the space right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky to have him as a buddy on Sundays, and I'll just leave it there. If I think of other ways, it's been tough with COVID a little just because of where
Yeah.
we're at.
Just,
But
social distancing and all this other stuff. Yeah.
pre-COVID, you just kind of know it when you feel it. Like, and some I've said, yeah, let's get a beer, and we go out and get a beer, and you realize, you know what, this is just a beer, and I'm not going to become best friends with this person. But
Mm-hmm.
it was fun. The other thing as you get older, I think, what I've realized is just like your hike again. I mean, certain people and
Mm-hmm.
certain friends are a certain way,
Mm-hmm.
and that's okay. It's okay if they remain work friends. It's okay if they remain in this area. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay if you just see them in a certain way. Um, some people are going to be your friends because your kids go to the same school, or
Mm-hmm.
because of something like that. And so, yeah, I don't really know. It's kind of a case by case. There'll be times where you'll say, "Hey, man, let's get a beer," and they'll say, "Yeah," and it doesn't work out. And yeah, I guess you struck out on that one, but you took a shot at it. But yeah, it's tough to say how to do it. I think you just do it.
Does your circle get smaller as you age?
You have less time to just go to a concert or to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes, you're doing work, you have family, you have children, you have your partner, significant other wife, husband. So your circle is still there. If you want to
Mm-hmm.
keep up, you're just going to likely see people less frequently,
Mm,
and you're going to meet new friends through work or something, and you're going to see them. But it's fluid, but it could actually be broader and larger. You're meeting new people through work or nonprofits or whatever it is you do. So you actually could broaden your circle even more. Where what I've really enjoyed in the richness of life is having many different groups of people,
mm-hmm.
and some of them I go deep with, some of them I don't. But even the ones that I may not go that deep with, I get a lot of richness and value out of being with them.
Mm-hmm. Because my mom, she mentioned this. I don't remember when, but she mentioned this in just passing by one time, and she said that in her life, one of the things that she's observed is that her circle did get smaller over time.
Hmm.
And I think actually this happened many years ago because I remember thinking about, well, how could that be possible? Because at that time I could name at least 50 people that I thought were my quote unquote friends.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize that that wasn't ultimately the case because I don't believe all 50 had my back if things were to go south. And then over time, I started to realize that yes, the circle for me did get smaller for a variety of reasons. One, moving halfway across the country, pursuing a different set of activities and things like that. And so now it's probably 5 to 10 people that I could call at any given moment, which is fine, perfectly fine. In To be honest with you, I think it's a perfect amount because of that is same exact thing that you just mentioned. The time is limited at the end of the day. And with all the other things that I try and accomplish on a daily basis, it's a little bit of a challenge to keep up with 50 people or 100 people on a daily
Well,
basis,
yeah, and even
or even on a
before
monthly basis. Like 10 people
we
for me, it's a lot.
even before likes and connections and friends, and even before social media came into play, uh, you go back 50 years, 100 years, 200 years. I think we
Hmm.
humans had this idea of there was definitely glamour in being known by everybody, right?
Yeah.
Walk into the salons in Paris or walk into the clubs in New York, and hey, everybody. I mean, look at the Cheers song, the TV show
Yeah.
Cheers, where everyone knows your name. And it's nice, but that's exhausting. And it doesn't even need to be possible to have everyone know your name. And if you do, let's say you're in a club scene, or let's say you're networking, or let's say you're in a certain scene here or there, you will by default meet a lot of people. Hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? But you can't
Hmm.
have a deep relationship with 50
Yeah.
people. You just can't. And if you can, that's great. But then I think your job is tied to it because you have to spend a lot of time doing that. And but if you've got 3, 5, 10 people that you're pretty deep with and connected, authentic with, I mean, talk about being appreciative. That's absolutely fantastic,
Yeah.
and keep it up. Um, and
And then you
I
have
think
to keep up the persona too. Like
yeah,
once you start down that road, that's the persona you got to keep up.
that's what you got to keep up, and that can get exhausting. And I just think as long as the friends are sincere and authentic and you're having a fun time, um, that's great. If you're doing it just so you can say you have 51 people who are
Hmm.
friends, I mean, you can kind of call BS on yourself.
Hmm. Casey, obviously you and I can, have this conversation for the next however many hours, but
Yes.
out of respect for both of our times and our bandwidth, how can people connect with you and what do you have going on at Leave Lot Behind that people can be a part
Yeah, always great talking to you. My wife just walked in and flashed me a big smile, so
of?
I'll tell her what we talked about here. Leavelawbehind.com. I am a former attorney. I help unhappy attorneys to leave the law for non-law alternative careers that they love, that are good at, and that pay them well. Have helped 4 attorneys, I think, just leave the law in the past few weeks. So very
Mm,
rewarding, meaningful, and you can find me at leavelawbehind.com.
that's awesome. We'll make sure to include, I think we've included the links for anyone that's going to be listening to this, where
Yeah.
they can find Leave Lot Behind and everything that you have. And I know that you guys, you have a blog through that as well. You
Have
guys
a
are
blog. We've written a lot, tons there for
mhm.
folks who are looking to leave an attorney job they don't like for a new career.
That's awesome. Well, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for not only sharing this space, but just being a part of my life and helping me take this next step forward and travel and experience other cultures and learn from people. And it's something that I'm thinking about now. It's something that I'll probably be thinking about for many, many years after I go back to wherever that place is. But I'm really grateful to have had the ability to travel
Yeah,
with other people for as short as 24 hours, for others as long as a couple weeks.
yeah,
People like you, a couple of years, and it's just I don't know. I think that's for me. That's what the beauty is at the end of the day. Being able
yeah.
to experience life with another person and know that I'm not the only one that's going through X, Y, and Z, um, and really just feel like I'm not alone when it comes to
You,
just any of these circumstances.
no, you hit the nail on the head. At Leave All Behind, we have a members forum, a Slack channel, and many people have said that's worth the price of admission even more
Hmm.
because they go in there, they can talk to other people, other attorneys just like them, who are writing and blogging and talking about what they're dealing with, good and bad, and the fact that they think they're alone, they're the only unhappy attorney in the world, and they go in there and
Hmm.
they see that they're not. So, whether it's with attorneys or whether it's your situation, all of us, a piece of art, painting,
Hmm.
story, TV, movie, that really resonates with us in many ways, strikes that chord, and oftentimes is so beautiful because it shows us we're not alone.
Hmm. And I will be seeing you tomorrow, as well as Jessica and Melody and everyone else that tunes in for the other show that we have through Overcoming Odds. And um, once again, just thank you. Thanks for being a part of this and being who you are. And I'll talk to you tomorrow morning or
Sounds great.
afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye bye.